All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Town of Walpole Select Board. It is Tuesday, March 24th, being at the hours after 7 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. If everyone could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the first item we have here, being the time is 7:01, public hearing and vote request for NSTAR Electric Company for grant location to install a conduit on Spring Street. So if we could go ahead and open the...
Motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes 5-0. We are now in public hearing. And we have with us somebody from NSTAR tonight. Yes, hello. Please come on up to the podium. Introduce yourself, if you would, please.
Yes, Christine Crosby, Eversource Energy,
Yes.
and we're requesting permission for grant a location to install approximately 45 feet within Spring Road, and, Spring Street.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose of that would be to provide underground electric service to 130 West Street, the new building that's being constructed.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Nope.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Is there anybody here for public comment on this Eversource item? NSTAR item, excuse me? Being that there isn't, we can close our hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. The motion passes. The hearing is now closed. Glenn?
Make a motion to approve the request of NSTAR Electric Company for a grant of location to install approximately 45 plus or minus feet of conduit at pole 26/3 on Spring Street.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for coming tonight. Okay, next item on our agenda is the Police Chief Quarterly Report. Chief Kelleher.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. I will jump right in with the more notable incidents that have occurred since the last time we were here. On December 20th, we had an overdose at the Walpole Motel, which unfortunately was fatal. Unresponsive person was found inside one of the rooms there. Drug paraphernalia was also located at the scene, and unfortunately the victim did not make it. Investigation underway into the source of the drugs, and we're working that now. On December 27th, more sad news, we had a pedestrian crash at the 1400 block of Washington Street. The victim was attempting to cross the street near their home and was struck by a passing motor vehicle and was ultimately passed away from their injuries. Investigation by WPD crash reconstructionists in the DA's office was extensive, and upon issuance of the autopsy report, it was determined that no charges would be filed in that case because there was no wrongdoing on behalf of the operator, but unfortunately it was a very sad case as well. On January 8th, we had another overdose on Beach Street. This time was non-fatal. Unresponsive person was found at that residence. Paramedics from the fire department were successful in their life-saving measures and were able to save the victim. Drugs were located at the scene, leading officers to believe that there was in fact an overdose as well. On February 8th, kind of a minor incident, but it was kind of ongoing for a little while at the mall. We had a group of teenagers causing problems at various businesses up at the mall. Minor stuff, but just kind of caused a disturbance to the local business owners up there. Several of them had called. Teens were identified, parents were notified as well. To stop the behavior, and the SRO and our juvenile detective followed up with them, just to kind of educate them on what is right and wrong when it comes to behaving in public. On February 13th, we had a B&E at Town Fair Tire. Storage bin out back was broken into. A bunch of rims were stolen out of there, probably for the metal, I would imagine. Investigation is ongoing at this time by our detective division. On February 17th, we had a number of motor vehicle breaks throughout town in various neighborhoods. A number of vehicles were broken into and it spanned across neighborhoods everywhere. It wasn't just one section of town. Unfortunately, once again, they were unlocked vehicles that were targeted. Mainly small amounts of cash and credit cards were stolen, as we normally see in these cases. So another good reminder to make sure your vehicles are locked at night when you go inside. They're not smashing windows to get in. They're simply pulling doors and seeing what they can get. So it's crime and convenience, but an inconvenience for everybody. And finally, on March 9th, we had a crash. No injuries in this one, but it was kind of significant. It took a lot of power down on East Walpole at Short and East Street. Officers responded to a one-car crash crashed into a telephone pole, again, knocked out power. Investigation revealed the vehicle was involved in a previous crash at East and High Plain Street, and then fled from the scene. And upon fleeing the scene, was going too fast around the corner and struck the pole. The operator was charged accordingly in both those crashes. Statistically, we had 18 arrests this quarter, down from 22 in quarter 4 last year. Cost of service of $3,887, which is up from $3,079 in quarter 4 of 25. Overdoses, as I mentioned, we had 2 this quarter, 1 fatal, 1 non-fatal, and we rounded out last year, 2025, with 7 in total and no fatalities. Home for Little Wanderers, 23 calls of service this year, which is about on par with how we've been doing with calls up there. Again, a lot of the same stuff we've been dealing with. We still have great communication with their staff, and they're sharing appropriate information with us and working with us on certain kids that may be issues and maybe not good fits for that school. So again, status quo there. The problems there are things we deal with regularly, and we're not dealing with blocks in communication, which is the big issue before with that school, and so we're grateful for that. In terms of training, a lot of recertifications this year for our officers, firearms, for our instructors, I should say, firearms, less lethal, and RAD, as well as some emergency medical dispatch certifications as well. Those expire at various times, and we usually send our officers through ahead of time to make sure their certifications don't lapse. We had some mental health related trainings for mental health first aid, CIT, dispatch specialty trainings, stuff responding to swatting calls and bomb threats, things like that are kind of prevalent now. So we trained up some officers and dispatchers in that, and then a bunch of investigative related training, search warrants, and conducting more complex investigations for our detectives. In terms of personnel, Kyle Conlon and Ryan Sanandella are in the academy right now. They started on January 5th, and they're slated to graduate in June. 2 officers graduated from the academy at the beginning of December. I might have mentioned this previously at our last meeting, but they're both on field training right now and doing very well. They'll be wrapping that up in the next month or so, which is great. They'll be on the street on their own. Detective Steve Foley retired after 32 years of service to the town. Longtime patrolman. He was also a crash reconstruction expert. He used to do all the crash investigations, and we were fortunate enough that he trained up one of our officers now and got passed along a lot of his knowledge. So we're hoping for a seamless transition into having our own reconstruction expert now on staff. He was a very skilled investigator. He spent the last couple of years of his career in the detective division. He was a court prosecutor. He was an even better person, quite frankly. Steve was a great guy, and we wish him the very best in his retirement. He was a great career. Officer Pat Baker was assigned to detectives to replace Detective Foley. Huge shoes to fill, but I have a lot of faith in Pat that he's going to do a great job. In terms of community policing, in December we did a lot of holiday events that we normally do, the Giving Tree, Junior Women's Club Festival of Trees, and the COA Holiday Stroll next door. We attended that as usual. In January we did the Polar Plunge in Sherburne. Officer Holmes coordinated that and somehow sucked me into that one, so it was cold, I'll give you that. A lot of ice, but we got through it. All for a good cause, so I was happy to be part of that, and thanks to Officer Holmes for all his work with that. And finally, in March, we started our 4-week RAD Kids program for kids 8 through 11. It helps with bullying and aggressive behavior, managing things like that in schools and in life as general. So I think it's a great training and great for our officers that are putting that together. And finally, I'll just touch upon the World Cup. There is a game on Thursday night. We still are really unsure how this will all look once this tournament starts. We are anticipating it being busy. We are staffing it appropriately. We have the funding that was all approved by the town of Foxborough does include our officers, and we have extra officers that are included in that whole contingent that will be assigned down there. We'll have our regular posts up with obviously reserve the right to adapt as needed. It depends upon what the traffic looks like and where we need to put those folks. We really want to keep a focus on the Acray Crossing at Summer Street. More trains are beginning coming in than they normally do for regular Patriots games. There's 4 for this week, and there could be as many as 14, I believe, for the World Cup games, which is great news for traffic if it comes to fruition. Obviously, we know public transportation has its struggles in the state, but I'm hoping that this will all work out well. But we will staff that crossing just to make sure there's no issues with pedestrians or cars getting stuck on the railway. School will be a full day on Thursday of this week. I did meet with Superintendent Goff about that, and we're going to work together to make sure that goes smoothly this week. To be determined on the June date. There is a June 16th game, which does overlap with school because of the snow. So we're hoping that we can kind of figure out how that'll go in the spring, early summer, I should say. But either way, Superintendent Goff has our full support to do whatever they need to do, whatever they feel is best, and we will manage it, like I told her, one way or another. We'll do what we have to do depending on what that looks like. So that is all I have for this report. If there's anything, questions, we're more than happy to take anything you might have.
Great, thanks, Chief. Yeah, particularly thank you for the World Cup update, and I know that whole write-up that you put together, and then Jim kind of piggybacked on. That was a lot of really great information, and we were able to give that out to the community and answer a lot of questions. So hopefully we can continue
Yep.
in that vein. And now that they have their permit and everything lined out, make sure everybody gets paid. And so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully Thursday is an actual dry run. It doesn't seem like there's going to be that many people, but we'll have to see.
The weeknight events always cause us some issues, just to get ahead of that. They always do. People come from work or they get there at the last minute. Gates open at noontime from what we're being told. That's plenty of time to get in there. We hope people get there early and use public transportation, and most importantly, Route 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions or comments from the board? Mark?
Any update on the Walpole Mall incident?
The
The car jam, I don't know what it was.
Oh. Yes, there is. The detectives investigated that, reviewed some footage from Panera Bread, and it appears at this time that it was 2 employees that were waiting for a ride, that it wasn't in fact a carjacking.
Okay.
So that's, yes. That was recently learned information. We're working on pushing something out about that to make everybody kind of feel a lot better about safety at the mall. Obviously, it's a mall. At night, it's an open area. It can be not well lit in some spots. We do urge you to be careful safety-wise at the mall. But that incident did appear to be a more of a misunderstanding at this point than it was an actual violent crime. So we'll have to manage the message on that tomorrow or in the days ahead.
Okay,
So let
thanks
the
for the
community know
update.
what was going on. Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks. Anybody else? Great. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great update, Chief. Thanks.
And we'll also cover here the memorandum of agreement. Just 1 second. 1 second. Sorry, chomping at the bit. Memorandum of agreement with Walpole Public Safety Dispatchers. Jim, do you want to comment on that?
Sure. I'd note that you have 2 MOAs on this agreement with the collective bargaining units. This first one we put under the police department's update, since it is parked over at the police department. So I'm happy to report that we've come to an agreement with the dispatchers union and recommend favorable action. Have the select board sign that agreement so I can present it to finance committee in 2 nights, and we can go forward with town meeting next at the end of beginning of May.
Great. Any other questions or comments from the board? Yeah.
Just good to see both of these get done, Jim. Great job for you and the team, and good to have it done in time for town meeting.
I agree.
Great. I hear a motion.
Yeah, and this is just for public safety dispatches for now?
Yes.
Okay, a motion to sign the memorandum of agreement with Walpole Public Safety Dispatches for the term July 1, 2026 to June 30th, 2029.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0. Very good. All right, Chief Barry, please come on down.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us before you. Last time I was before the board was November 18. Just an update. We closed out 2025 with 9,108 runs. Of that, 5,107 were responses or calls, as we refer to them. I know a broken record, but our busiest year yet. Great job by our firefighters dealing with that. Fire prevention had 4,101 incidents that they dealt with throughout 2025. To date, fire prevention has had 645 assignments taken care of, and our runs is up a little bit from last year. Again, about 20 runs is 1,157 calls, so we still average about 14 a day. Of those 1,157, we had couple notable notes. We had a small fire at the Walpole Mall as a result of some permanent hot work. Fortunately, we had a fire watch detail on scene, firefighter Cochran. He was quickly able to identify that, knocked it down with a fire extinguisher and immediately called help. The on-duty group responded with the recall, and Sharon arrived and assisted us with the situation, mitigated and contained it as quickly as possible with minimal damage to anything on scene. We had a working fire at School Street during the day at a residence, and quick extinguishment by Group 1, and with the assistance of Norwood and Westwood covering the station and recall people. And a significant incident that we did have back in December the 19th, we kind of got slammed with 35 runs in one day. It was one of our busiest days. The windstorm hit us, and we just ran pretty much nonstop, including a structure fire on Washington Street, which Group 3 handled very, very well. And on-duty group coming back, assisting out through the multiple calls throughout the day. One of the things that I'm excited about is our new record-keeping system that we're implementing. We're able to keep better track of our simultaneous calls, and Deputy Hover's in the process of building that out for us. We'll be able to provide a lot more detailed information of how often we're tied up with multiple and overlapping calls. So it'll be nice to report that back to you and provide some pretty detailed information. Mutual aid fires, we've responded to multiple. Foxborough, Norwood, Medfield, Rentham, and probably the second time in my career down to North Attleboro. They had 2 working fires within multiple alarm fires within the same time frame. So when this rains or pours type of thing, everybody's getting busy all at once type of the way it goes. Without saying, this winter was challenging, to say the least. Great effort, great job by our firefighters and our fire officers. We could not have done it without the dedication of the DPW. They kept our roads clear. I want to thank them for a great job helping us, getting us where we needed to get to, and then when we couldn't get out of there, getting us back out of there. So it was a great job by the DPW. I appreciate the effort and support that they provided us throughout this winter. Also, a great thanks to our residents and businesses that kept their fire hydrants clear for us. It was a sigh of relief going around town and seeing all the hydrants shoveled out for us. So seconds count when we need them, so appreciate it. Segueing right into open burning season upon us right now through May 1st. It's just residential burning. Permits must be applied for at the fire station, and reminder to residents each day that you want to burn, must call the station to make sure the weather's permittable. Again, it's only residential, no construction, debris, just pretty much just brush. An update on the drought level. It's as of the March 9th update on the Massachusetts drought map. We're still at a moderate level, which is stage 3 of a 5-stage, so right in the middle. We're optimistic that'll get a little better, but with the cold winter and the snow, land freeze of the snow hadn't worked its way into the ground just yet, even with all the rain that we've just had. So we're hopeful that it'll be a little bit of a wetter season for us. Budget appears to be okay at this time, but we are keeping an eye upon it. So we'll notify administration if there's any concerns. But right now, everything looks pretty well. I would like to take a moment to recognize Deputy and thank Deputy Tebow for his work on our last ambulance inspection recertification. Our state inspector specifically noted and appreciated the town's commitment to our EMS services, particularly with the addition of a full-time staff dedicated to that responsibility. The level of attention and detail that Deputy Tebow brings to this role was clearly evident throughout the inspection process, and is greatly appreciated daily. The passion and effort he puts into the service that we provide. A training update. Our on-duty members continue to get in on-duty training as possible as the call volume allows and warrants, but it can be difficult. It almost seems every time you start something, we start to get some of those multiple calls. So it's difficult, but they keep a great effort, a great attitude about it, and appreciate the work they put into it. Deputy Hover graduated from the 14-week Chief Fire Officer class through the Massachusetts Fire Academy. That's a time-consuming and process for anybody, never mind somebody involved in fire prevention, that is pretty busy. But congratulations to him, and well done. Kind of a great segue into, we have somebody at the absolute opposite end of that spectrum is firefighter Jenna Malone graduated from the Massachusetts Fire Academy Recruit Program this Friday. So we're excited to get her back on shift, and she'll be reassigned to Group 4 where she started off with. So fortunate with that. Firefighter Corey Lombardo is currently assigned to the Massachusetts Fire Academy Recruit Program. He's started a few weeks ago, and he's expected to graduate in May. So we're looking forward to get him back. Tom Shea completed and returned and earned his paramedic license. He's currently assigned to Group 2, and he's scheduled to begin the Massachusetts Fire Academy program in May, just a short week after Corey comes back to us. Many additional members do find the time and the commitment to attend the multiple classes that the Massachusetts Fire Academy does offer beyond the recruit program. So it's nice to see people graduating from the program, but it's also nice to see some of our senior members all throughout their career make their way back to the academy. Might even do it on their own time, and it's a great program that the academy offers with the multiple classes, and it's good to see our people find the ability to get out there. The recruit program at the academy is slammed right now. It's booking out all the way through October, to kind of back to where we went a while ago. We're just keeping that in mind. But both campuses, Stowe and Bridgewater, are booked all the way through till October now. So our annual St. Patrick's Day breakfast was once again a great success. A huge thank you to Carrie and her staff at the COA for welcoming us and allowing us to take over that facility for the morning. I'm incredibly grateful to everyone who attended and helped make the morning so enjoyable. It was a pleasure to serve everybody there, especially my mom. And this event would not have been possible without the hard work and dedication of our retirees, our on-duty group, off-duty members who came back, and an amazing group of friends and family that have been there since day one when Senator Timothy started it for us. And it's great to see those people back, and they show up every year without fanfare, without a hesitation. And a special thanks to Firefighter Tom Randy and Lieutenant Peter Armstrong, who continue to coordinate this for us and put it on and make it a great event for everybody. As Chief Kelleher mentioned, the World Cup is Thursday. We'll have additional staff on as well. I've heard it's the spectrum. We're not sure what to expect, so we'll be ready, and we'll deal with what comes our way. Personnel updates. I've had one resignation. Luke Cunningham resigned and moved on. We wish him the best of luck in the rest of his career. We have 2 individuals out injured on duty right now. They're working through the process. They've done a great job communicating with us, keeping us updated with their prognosis is, and they'll be out for a little while longer, but I have no doubt they'll be back as soon as they safely can be, which is a key aspect of what I look for, is to get yourself healed up before you come back and risk re-injury. Deputy Hoover and his wife Kara welcomed their new baby daughter a little while ago, and as a result, he was out of the office for an extended period, and during his absence, we had multiple people step up to fill those roles, especially firefighters O'Neill and Thomas, and Captains Keogh, Stacy, Peter and Paul Carter, and Assistant Chief Shirella and Mary Timothy. Many hands make for light work. It was obviously in that role for a while. It's a busy spot, and it was great to see these people step up and help out, fill in. And while he was still out, many emails were coming back and forth all hours of the day. So it's a continuing process. Fire prevention, it doesn't stop, but that's what we're here for. With that, thank you. That concludes my quarterly. If you have any questions, I can answer that. If you want to segue into the next item on the agenda.
Sure, let's see if there's any questions or comment from the board on the quarterly.
I only have one on the software that you're putting in to track the back-to-backs on the, particularly the ambulance runs, but everything. Can we share that information with the Norwood Hospital Task Force? I think that's valuable data that they could be using to be making the case as we continue to pursue that at the state level.
Sure, we can pass that on.
Great, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Great, all right, thank you, Chief. So let's go to ambulance rates.
Yes, sir. So as part of the process, I completed a review of our current rates, and, which were adjusted last February. Conducted a survey of billing rates, which was conducted across multiple communities that provide fire-based ambulance services. The results of those were included in your packet, with recommendations for the 2026 rates for your consideration. I respectfully request if you approve of those, vote so we can implement those as soon as possible.
Any other questions or comments on that, Glenn?
Yeah, thanks, Chief. Just on clarification on the revenue side, because I know there's a difference between what we set for rates and what we actually collect, in particular with the Medicare. I know they have maximums that are well below our rates, in fact, which is fine. But I'm curious, and this is something I haven't asked you before, so I wanted to ask you. I know your mileage rate and your extra EMT rates are sort of line items in addition to the base rate, and I didn't know if Medicare, when you bill them, and Medicaid, when you bill them, if it's just a maximum that they pay, or if it's the maximum plus you can get the extra EMT plus you can get the mileage.
You get the mileage, it's a different rate, but again, that's set by their rules.
Yep.
So
So they'll pay mileage.
So they'll reimburse for the mileage, again, at the rate that they set.
At their rate, okay.
Consistent with the rate, the same thing as their transport.
How about
fees.
the extra EMT? Is that something that they will pay?
That's not an item that's often billed for, so
Okay,
I
got it.
haven't run into, I'll have to check on that for you, but that's a great question.
Okay.
But,
Okay, that's all. Other than that, the rates look good.
Thanks, Lou.
Yeah.
All right, I would hear a motion on the ambulance rates then.
I'll make a motion to approve the updated ambulance rates as outlined in the memo from Chief Barry dated February 4th, 2026.
I'll second that.
Motion is second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Next item we have here is the Fire Department Station 2 update.
So we could take to you, Chief, if you want. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to provide the board with a formal update on Station 2, where we stand. So we last discussed this on November 18th. Since then, we've been working with TAP A to really narrow down some of the sites. The identified Site 2 really wasn't feasible after working with the DPW director on this. He was concerned that it was a former water tank site, and it had a lot of pipes that go through the infrastructure that really couldn't be moved from OPR. So we've kind of shifted, made site number 2 the OPR site where the water tanks are currently located, but at this time I don't want to, we've identified it, but I don't want to put any money into that project, because it seems as though this Coney Street site, which is about 1.4 acres and change, is really the most desirable out of all of them. So we're going to go forward with the board's permission to do some geotechnical and environmental review of the site, a survey, traffic review of the area. Fortunately, there's a lot of recent information based off of the Siemens TIF and the improvements that were done on that intersection, so we don't need to put too much money towards that at this time. And then some architectural and administrative support. So we're estimating about $72,000 to spend, maybe plus or minus a little bit more. We currently have about $652,000 remaining there. We received a grant for $100,000 from the state. So I just more or less want the board's blessing to move forward with this. Also put the Conservation Commission on notice that we're exploring this site. I don't want it to be the last minute with them come down and say, oh, by the way, we need a unanimous vote from the Conservation Commission before we proceed to town meeting to get legislative approval to pursue this site. We will also have to identify a site to trade off with the Conservation Commission to replicate of about 1.5 acres, give or take. And I'm sure we can find that in some town-owned lands that are currently held by the town of Walpole, not in conservation. So that's more or less where I'm at. I anticipate this process to probably take 1 to 2 years, and then probably the legislative process to take 1 to 2 years too. It's not a bad thing that it's going to take some time. It's going to allow us to save up funds over the next few years, probably get, next town meeting some, $200,000 or $300,000 more towards architectural and design services to continue putting away on this one to prepare for it. So, Chief, anything to add?
No, we've identified, like I said, I mentioned last time, the sites all of them present challenges. And I think this provided the least amount of obstacles for us, and the best situated for neighborhoods. And so we look forward to investigating this process, and I agree with Jim, not spending any money on site number 2 at this moment just yet. Let's see if we can make this one work.
So I am asking the board to authorize this office to proceed with a preliminary feasibility analysis referenced in this correspondence for Coney Street parcel, utilizing the current available funds, and notify the Conservation Commission that the town's actively evaluating this parcel. Work with council to better understand the steps and approvals required.
Okay. I'd also point out one of the draws for the Coney Street site was the improved response times, like markedly improved response times to East Walpole. I remember going through that that report, so.
I'll admit, I was a little concerned about pushing it out there, but statistically, it opens it up, and
Yeah.
it's actually improves response time from where we are located right now throughout the town, not just East Walpole, so.
Yep,
it's helpful.
absolutely. Any other questions or comment from the board on that? Glenn?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's a home run with a lot of obstacles along the way. So I support it fully. I think it's a great site. I don't particularly think we have much of a backup plan. Maybe I need to visit the OPR tanks, and maybe I'll feel differently, but it doesn't sound very appealing for a backup plan. So I think hopefully we can make Coney Street work. There are, like I said, some obstacles, which you mentioned, the Conservation Commission. They all live in Walpole. Hopefully they can get on board. We'll bring them in early and give them, answer any of their questions and alleviate any of their concerns. And then I think the state legislature, we can get past that, and I think some of the other obstacles we can get past. So I fully support it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think that the board has always spoken in favor of this. Do we want to vote specifically, Jim, or are you
Just would
comfortable
like
with-
a formal vote authorizing to proceed as outlined in the correspondence dated March 17th.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that that the select board supports the Station 2 site at Coney Street as outlined in the correspondence of March 17th.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0-0. All right, great. And then the last item here is the MOA with Walpole firefighters, Jim?
Sure. So similarly to the dispatchers, we've reached an agreement for continuing our collective bargaining contract with the firefighters, and it's a reasonable contract. It gets the firefighters to where they need to be. It comes in line with what we're able to offer the firefighters at this time, and continue to allow the fire department to grow and to bring in new firefighters. So recommend favorable action on this, and these both will be covered under Article 4 of the Springtown meeting warrant.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board?
Just great work getting this done. I think having these ready for town meeting, as Jim alluded to, the dispatchers is wonderful, so.
Great.
I make a motion to sign the memorandum of agreement with Walpole firefighters for the term July 1, 2026 to June 30th, 2029.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0-0. All right. Thank you, Chief. All right.
Thanks.
Okay. Since the time is after 7:25, if there was anyone here to speak at open forum, come on up, Susan.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here tonight. I understand there will not be.
Susan, if you could just introduce yourself.
I'm sorry?
If you could just
I'm
introduce
sorry.
yourself for the
I was
watching audience at home.
the next thing I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
My name
Go
is
ahead.
Susan Lawson. I'm here because I and Josette Burke have filed a citizens petition. And I understand that tonight there will not be debate or discussion about it, but I did want to make a number of points. First of all, Josette and I have filed this not on behalf of the Finance Committee. This is, Josette and I are doing this as citizens, and we hope that you will reopen the warrant to include our petition. We filed this petition on March 10th. We would like to have you reopen the warrant to include it so that it can be reviewed, discussed, and voted on at the town meeting scheduled for May 4th. Sorry. The same issue was presented at the fall town meeting, but the warrant article failed after a tie vote by the RTM's present at that meeting. Since that time, in our opinion, things at the Sewer and Water Commission have gone from bad to worse. We believe there's been a lot of misinformation surrounding the proposal to transition from an elected Sewer and Water Commission to an appointed board. We'll present evidence and arguments in support of this change at the Springtown meeting, but for now, we just wish to make 3 points. First, we believe that this select board and RTM should examine the attendance records of the 5 current commissioners. If a commissioner is unwilling or unable to be present on a regular basis at scheduled, posted Sewer and Water Commission meetings, this is a problem. Second, we believe that The board and RTM should consider the level of dysfunction that is on display at the Sewer and Water Commission meetings. For those citizens who have not attended meetings of the Sewer and Water Commission, it is possible and extremely useful to view some of these meetings, particularly those held most recently. Meetings may be viewed on YouTube, and we strongly recommend that board members and RTMs view the meetings held on January 27th, at which rates were set, February 9th, March 9th, a meeting that lasted less than 5 minutes, and last night's meeting, March 23rd, before casting a vote on this important matter, again, assuming that you open the warrant and that it is available for voting. Most residents would be dismayed to observe the lack of understanding of basic rules by some commissioners and by their unwillingness and/or inability to follow basic rules regarding how meetings are required to be run. Third point we wish to make is that it has been extremely difficult for many, many years to attract qualified people to run for the position of Sewer and Water Commissioner. But we believe that there are many qualified residents in this town who would be more than willing to serve as a member of a Sewer and Water Advisory Board reporting to the Select Board. Placing responsibility under the Select Board is not, as many have claimed, a power grab. The Select Board would rely on a well-qualified board of advisors as well as experts in our town water department to move forward with the many critical sewer and water issues that are facing our town. Sewer and water funds, it needs to be emphasized, would not be commingled with other town funds. Change is hard, but when it is clear that change is necessary, citizens would be wise to support the transition to a system that will allow Walpole to deal with sewer and water business in a thoughtful and professional manner. As a side note, many other towns in the Commonwealth have already made such a change. We cannot, in our opinion, afford to delay on this. Even if this comes before town meeting and it is voted as, to approve the change, it would still take probably a year, it's my understanding, to make the change official. In any event, I mentioned 4 meetings, and I urge people to watch the rate-setting meeting, January 27th. Some people claimed that it was hard to get to the meeting because of the snow. I got there, it was not a problem. On the 9th of February, I ask you to look at the first 14 minutes of the meeting and the last 20 minutes of the meeting. And finally, the 5-minute meeting on March 9th goes quickly. And then last night's meeting is long, but maybe worth your time. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I urge you to reopen the warrant and put this on so the town meeting can consider it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else here to speak at open forum? Going twice. All right. We're gonna move along then. Under new business, we have an item number 1, discussion and vote on board committee reappointments. The full list is available in the Select Board's office. So typically, we take these annual reappointments, reach out to individuals who are on the boards and committees, ask them if they would like to continue, and if they answer in the affirmative, then we re-up them in this vote, and we allow them to continue. Of course, any boards or committees that have vacancies are also listed on the town website, and so we are always encouraging, and I feel a little bit like a broken record sometimes, but please look at the town website for other vacancies on boards and committees, because there are many, and I'm sure that there will be something on an appointed board or committee that you will find interesting and allow you to give back on your own time. So with that, I'd hear a motion.
Make a motion to approve the list of reappointments as listed in the Select Board meeting packet.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0-0. All right, second item under new business is the consideration and vote on reopening of the warrant to insert citizens' petitions submitted outside the period allowed under town policies and procedures manual, and then reclosing of the warrant. So the way we'll do this is I'll give a little preface on the town policies and procedures. We'll open it up to the board for discussion, and then we'll see what votes, what motions people see fit to make. the relevant policy and procedure section that I just referenced, 202-004, is in the section of the town policies and procedures that relates to town meeting, how to plan for town meeting, set up for town meeting, how the warrant is handled, some of the dates and other administrative items that are important to that process. We've spent quite a bit of time over the past year or so talking about the warrant process, and so I won't rehash all of that except to say that typically the warrant is open around 6 months before town meeting. It's closed at some point, usually around 3 months before town meeting. It's closed because it allows everybody, FinCom, town administrator's office, town council, legal counsel to review items, and it gives them time to put that together before the warrant actually needs to be printed. Before the warrant is printed, the warrant is finalized. We all sign it, and then it gets mailed out, obviously, to everybody in the town, and it goes before FinCom for all their deliberations. So item 202-004 of our policies and procedures states, and I'll just read it into the record, the petition inclusive of the required number of signatures of Walpole registered voters, 10 for annual town meeting articles, which this is, shall be certified by the town clerk and must be submitted to the office of the select board 5 days prior to the scheduled close of the warrant. I don't know when that was added to the policies and procedures. It's been in there as long as I've been on here, which is 7 years, going on 7 years. I think it's pretty clear it was added in there for a couple of reasons, but the foremost is to make sure that everybody is clear on what's taking place, right? To avoid precisely the situation that FinCom and everybody finds themselves in now, which is a couple of petitions coming in at the last minute, and the FinCom's last meeting has to be the 26th, which is this Thursday, so it makes this whole process very condensed. And I know that folks at town meeting, RTMs, as well as some residents have said in the past that they don't like to rush these items, and this situation certainly feels somewhat rushed in terms of timeline. So that policy and procedures is in place for that reason, right? It gives everybody time to set these things aside. It also gives additional time if the petitioners prefer to do so. They can request assistance from the town administrator's office, from town council in the writing of their citizens petition article. So to ensure that the language is legal, that the actions described in the article can actually be effectuated after town meeting, those sorts of things. So it's not only a protection of time for FinCom and everybody else in the select board, it's also to help out petitioners. So the item that's actually in front of us tonight has nothing to do with the subject of the citizens petitions. In fact, the select board does not debate or discuss the subject of citizens petitions. The subject of our discussion tonight is simply, should we waive the requirements of the town's policies and procedures, reopen the warrant, allow the citizens petitions to go on the warrant, and then close it, and then move on to town meeting? Or will we just vote to finalize the warrant, sign it, and have it go forward as is? In that particular case, the petitioners would then have the choice to bring their citizens petition back for fall town meeting in October. So, a little over 6 months from now. From my standpoint, I am open to a vote to reopen the warrant, but personally, I believe that should be accompanied by a commitment by the board to revisit our policies and procedures. As I've said many times over the years that I've been on the board, policies, procedures, protocols, they always need to be updated. They need to fit what the town's needs, the residents' needs in terms of getting through these administrative procedures in the most efficient and meaningful way. If this no longer fits the way the town does business, obviously we've seen municipal governance moves much more quickly these days than it has even 5 or 6 years ago. So perhaps these policies and procedures need to be updated. So if we do elect to reopen the warrant, I would ask that be part of the accompanying motion and commitment by the board to update these so that when we do go to fall town meeting in October, the policies and procedures will reflect how the board thinks it's best to move forward. So with that, I'd ask if anybody on the board would like to start with comments?
I'll make a quick comment. Thanks for that summary. It's very good. And I agree that it's pretty clear in our rules and procedures that we have a rule that, by January, the citizens petition should have those 10 signatures and should have been submitted. That would have been 120 days, give or take, before town meeting. So it would have been, you would have needed a lot of sort of foresight into, and really a lot of planning, which I guess is what it's designed for. They also are our rules and procedures, and so we can break them as easily as we can make them. And I personally am of the style where I am okay with moving quickly and debating and having these conversations. And so I don't necessarily need the 120 days. I understand the rule is there, but I didn't really need all that time, and I'm more than happy to move forward with the time we have now. I don't need to move forward, but it's just, there's nothing standing in my way. So.
Got it. Anybody else? Ally?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when we start developing the warrant for whether it's fall or spring, I think it surprises everyone how early these are developed. And I know, again, over the course of years, there's frustration that items could not be addressed at fall and had to be held off in the spring. I am open to reevaluating our policies and procedures because, as Glenn mentioned, 120 days prior to the warrant closing, that's a pretty extensive amount of time. We get a lot of work done. We make a lot of decisions on a monthly basis. I hope, through all those decisions, there's a lot of conversation as well. Being that these citizens petitions and what we're looking to is open the warrant to bring them to town meeting floor again, which is, then not just us, but also all of our, elected RTMs within Walpole. So I am open to looking at this, discussing it, and kind of reviewing those policy procedures in the future too.
Jim, sure.
Thanks, Ben, and I know we're not here to debate the item, so I won't do that. I also won't repeat what's been said ahead of me, other than to say I agree with both Glenn and Ally. What I would add to the discussion is I think we need to be respectful to those who have brought forward these citizens petitions. They put the work in to go get the signatures and to draft up the language, and I think we should be respectful of that. And so with that said, I'm certainly open to considering reopening the warrant. I also would say that I think we should take a look at those procedures. I would be willing to bet most people aren't aware of those procedures, and I'm not sure I was either, to be honest with you, and so it was a little surprise. So we should take a look at that and update them to reflect the speed with which we moved today. So I'm open to reopening the warrant.
I agree with all of you. I agree we should reopen the warrant and we should update our procedures, in a timely fashion, so.
All right, if somebody would like to make a motion?
Make a motion that the Select Board reopens the Spring 2026 Town Meeting warrant for the purpose of inserting the citizens petitions submitted by Alice Susan Lawson and Patrick Fasanello, adequate numbers of signatures for which having been received and certified, and to close the warrant, and to update our rules and procedures at a future meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0-0. Thank you, Glenn.
Sure, I have another motion to sign the Spring 2026 Town Meeting warrant.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Mr. Chairman, before we do,
Yeah.
do we have to vote to put these articles on the warrant?
Nope. So the motion that was made here and reviewed by town council was to reopen the warrant, and we actually don't need to take action as a select board to place them on the warrant because it's a citizen's petition and the town clerk has validated all the signatures. As soon as the warrant is open, it goes on.
Okay.
And so we've opened it and allowed the citizen petitions to go onto the warrant, and then we've closed it all in
Great,
one
thank you.
motion. Yeah. Thanks, Jim. So we have a motion and a second to sign the Spring 2026 Town Meeting warrant. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0-0. And one other item here with the warrant. So there are a number of articles that we have not yet discussed and voted on. The one that we will discuss and vote on tonight is actually been the subject of some discussion already. It's Article 4, which is the union contracts. Jim, do you want to expand upon that any further? or-
Sure, as you
Okay.
know, Mr. Chairman, I requested that we have this the select board vote on this one, just to show that the finance committee that you supported. I know generally you like to wait for the finance committee to vote on some of the other articles, so in total, with the addition of these two, we have 9 outstanding articles for you and for the finance committee to vote on. So I just would request that the board vote favorable action on Article 4, the 2 union contracts covered under there.
Yep, so for the union contracts, we have the dispatchers and fire
Yes.
are the ones that we've covered today. Any further discussion or questions about Article 4?
Nope.
Being that there is none, I'd hear a motion.
Motion to recommend favorable action on Article 4.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Favorable action 500. Landis, would you like to speak on something? Were you here to speak on something? I saw you kind of come in and then leave. I didn't want to get too far down here before.
It's not on this
Go-
particular,
That's fine. If it's on our agenda, then,
yeah, it was on the appointments.
okay.
So
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to bring up that Albert Getz is not requesting to be appointed again.
Okay.
And he's been on the Conservation Commission for one form or the other as associate or commissioner since 1967.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And he is a wealth of information. He's just been just a treasure for the town and the commission, and I just wanted that to be recognized
Absolutely.
some way. So
Good call,
to bring
Landis.
that forward.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that forward, Landis.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. All right. That's amazing. All right. Moving on here, we will go to the supplemental water informational document. All right. So we've talked a little bit about we've talked a little bit about the articles, all of these articles over the past few weeks. So we have this supplemental water informational document. So let me give you a little background on this. Everyone's aware of the MWA article that's going to be brought forward at town meeting. That is a proposal to apply to gain access to MWRA as a water source, a supplemental water source. And so there'll be a lot of discussion about that at the FinCom meeting on Thursday night, the 26th. We'll discuss that specifically again at our next meeting and vote on it. And then, of course, it'll be discussed at town meeting with all the RTMs and everybody in May. And a lot of ink has been spilled on that subject. I know that the Sewer and Water Commissioners are going to attend the FinCom meeting on the 26th to speak on a lot of the technical details surrounding the MWI hookup, operational details, those sorts of pieces of information. Jim Johnson, the town administrator's office, has put a memo out relevant to that article with all of the facts and figures and dollars and cents, and I think it runs to maybe almost 15 pages, so it is exhaustive amount of information. And that kind of got us thinking about, well, what does supplemental water mean for Walpole? What is this MWRA article? Some residents had asked, well, we're talking about getting supplemental water from the MWRA. Is that the only option, right? If we say no to that, can we get it from other places? What's the general view of the town on how that would be, developed, how that plan would be developed? So that got us thinking, and we got a lot of input from, the water department superintendent, from the DPW director, Rick Mattson, from the sewer and water commissioners, from John Hasenjager and Bill Abbott, from folks on this board, from the town administrator's office. So a big thank you to everyone for all their input into this. And what we're able to put together is this informational document that is very general in nature, and it's sort of a 30,000-foot view of where does Walpole get its water, and what does supplemental water mean, right? How much do we use on an annual basis? How much more might we need with all the development going on in town? And how would that take place? And it talks a little bit about the MWRA as a supplemental water source. It talks a little bit about the town's own wells, expanding our own capacity, adding wells, updating current wells. And so it's really intended as sort of an introductory document because, we're well aware and we've heard from town meeting representatives that, people want information. They want the select board, they want the town to issue this, to get this information out in the public sphere. And for my part, a 15-page memorandum on the financial implications or some very technical information about millions of gallons of water and operations may not be the best course of action to do that. I think I see some residents' eyes glaze over when that stuff gets brought up. And so being able to have something that's very simple, and I say simple, it ended up being, this document is 4 pages, but it's pretty light. And the hope there is twofold. One, that a resident on the street of Walpole who is interested in the water, where we get our drinking water, and what needs to be done to plan for the future, would be interested in reading it and looking at it. And even better, from my standpoint, would be if they read it and had questions, then we have very detailed financial information. We have very detailed operational and technical information. And maybe that's a bit of a gateway for folks to get more interested in what's going on. But that's always our hope as a select board, is to get more people interested in what's going on. So with that extremely lengthy preface, we wanted to bring it to the board on the agenda tonight, just to have the board discuss it and vote to make it a public document. I guess the last thing I would point out is, to be able to give it to RTMs, give it to town meeting, give it to FinCom members, make it available to the public, post it on social media, whatever the case may be. And the last thing I want to say to it before we open it up for discussion is, this isn't a conflicting document, right? Like, the Sewer and Water Commissioners are going to go before FinCom and talk about a lot of details related to MWA supplemental water, and that's going to be very detailed. We have financial information as well. This is intended as a very general kind of overarching document with information, right? So none of these are competing. There's no conflicting pieces of information, and they're living documents. The more we find out about it as we move forward through the years, I'm sure some of that information will change. I'll stop there and just open it up to the board for any questions or comments that anybody may have. Mark?
I would just say, I think it's a great starting document for people who have an interest in water. And not only the RTMs, but I think it's great for the citizens who are starting to ask questions about, tell us more about the water. So I think that's a good place to start. And then they can dig in on the other documents and get more details and follow along at town meeting. So I think it's a great first document.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, I agree with Mark, and I applaud your efforts in putting this together, Ben, because it's a complicated question. And I know the article that's on the warrant for the spring is solely about the application to the MWRA as a first step, but we will necessarily get into broader dialogue on the floor of town meeting. And so having a rather straightforward handout, 2 or 3 pages, that gets at the salient points of not only what the article that's in front of the town meeting is all about, but also sort of anticipates the questions that are going to come to the floor of town meeting and prepares people ahead of time so they have a good understanding of what this initial article and the first step, as I'll call it, could lead to somewhere over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever that turns out to be. So I think it's important to have this kind of a document. And having worked with you on this, I'm very satisfied with what we've got in it. It is somewhat generic, but there are also enough details in it to give people something to think about and consider, and no doubt will cause some questions to be asked of, us and the Sewer and Water Commissioners when we get to town meeting. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good document, Ben, and I think we should approve it, and I do think we should share it.
Yeah, and I just reiterate that, the DPW Director, Rick Mattson, Water Department Superintendent Steve Nunnery, Sewer and Water Commissioners Bill Abbott and John Hassenjager all had a lot of input into this. So those are the folks, the professionals that really know, Rick and Steve know the ins and outs of the operations, they know the dollars and cents, and they're really incredible resources for everybody in terms of information on this.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, so to watch this this document's been being put together for 2 months, 3 months now, it's been a while. And to watch it evolve over the period of time that it has and get those additional refinements put into it by the experts has been notable. And again, I think it's a great document.
Yep.
Just to add in, the civic engagement. A document like this, hopefully, and making it public and really spreading, whether it's through social media, posting on town websites. I think it's very important. This is a big discussion of where should our water come from, or where should our water come from in the future. It is a big decision. I think this document does a great job of just kind of really laying it out. Hopefully it does get more people to become engaged with that conversation, to ask the questions, and come back to us. But I think this is a great starting point to help get that information out in a clear way.
Great. Glenn?
People should ask the question of how much it's gonna cost. That's the number one question they should ask. I can make a motion if you're ready.
Please.
I make a motion to approve the supplemental water informational document and direct the town administrator to distribute the to various town officials as part of the town meeting draft.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0-0. Moving on to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items as listed on the March 24th agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0-0.
And I can
Minutes.
make a motion to approve the minutes of March 10th, 2026 as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0-0 on the minutes. All right.
We did that, yep.
And town administrators update. Jim?
Sure, just a couple of items here. Paving. Rick came in this afternoon and advised me that the milling of the roads is expected to start next week. First few projects that include milling include Huntington and Broad and Norfolk Street from Main Street to the bridge just before the West Street ball fields. I'm glad to see we're getting this stuff started early, very early in the season for us. So good work to the DPW on that one. Another DPW-related item, water main works is set to start on next week or so. Going to focus on South and Washington Street areas. The entire work will take the whole construction season, but again, glad to see that getting started. Finance Committee, they're going to be pretty busy this Thursday night. Their schedule, they're set to meet on the 26th, Thursday night, and then not again until April 30th. I've reached out to the chair and vice chair and asked, after the discussion on the 26th, we may want to talk about maybe adding a meeting or two, but that's going to be their call. But I put it on their radar. And warrant booklets going to the printer on April 6th. And we got a few weeks to get that mailed out to the residents, but it'll be out in time, and that's it.
Great. Any other questions or comments for Jim? All right. Thank you, Jim. I would hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0-0. We are adjourned. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks.